Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us on day 3, the last day, with lots of interesting talks ahead. Our session here in this room today is AI and gender. And our first talk, Caroline, our first talk is Shaping AI for a Feminist World by Jannis Steinke, Tanja Kubis, and Corinna from TU Braunschweig, FU Berlin, University of Augsburg in Germany. So happy you're online. Happy to welcome you. And go ahead, you have 20 minutes of a talk and then 10 minutes Q&A. And everybody online, you can ask questions via the Q&A section. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having us here. I try to share my slides. And okay. Okay. Welcome. My name is Corinna. I used to be professor for gender technology and mobility for 9 years at TU Braunschweig, and I'm doing this presentation here with Tanja Kubis and Jannis Steinke, who are both a bit sick today, and we are standing here for a whole group of scholars from the Gender Studies Association in Germany. Yeah, so the structure of our talk is that we first want to talk about the working group very briefly, and the intervention we tried to do in the standardization roadmap in Germany, the roadmap on artificial intelligence from a feminist, queer feminist, and more broad perspective, and we got a bit we're a bit successful, but there is still a lot to do. That's the last part of the talk. So who is the working group? Digital, it stands for diversity critical, intersectional, gender theoretical interventions in technologies and algorithms. Located in the German Gender Studies Association, and we are a group of scholars, maybe 15 to 20 engaged scholars from disciplinary backgrounds, from engineering to social sciences and humanities, and we discuss the social technical inequalities, particularly in IT and AI algorithms, and one of our strands of activism was to intervene in the standardization process, where where the artificial intelligence roadmap is for the implementing the EU AI Act in Germany. What did we do? First, I want to introduce this standardization roadmap, which started first with some groups, fundamental security and so on, and we went into that social technical systems working group to intervene from a feminist side, and we yeah, this is maybe to give you some idea about the definition they were working with. This is the DIN definition that we have to deal with social-technical systems, include the subsystems of humans and technology, with, which are interrelated and interact or should interact with each other. In this context, AI technology is related to humans, the organizational environment, and society as a whole. So first, this sounds quite good, and we compared to the rather technical addressing that we are used to from computer science and other fields of governing AI technologies. It's a good step to have humans in, or socio-technical systems. This view is quite new, but if we look at it from a feminist science and technology studies side, which is very prominent in our group, we can say this is a very old idea with which we are, the science and technology studies people are working with for maybe 40 or 50 years already. So it's good that this is now discovered, but this is as we have already seen here at that conference, not enough, since it's not including the environment. And if we go back to the feminist theoretical aspects and theoretical backgrounds, we can relate, draw on maybe the feminist materialism as one of the strands, where we have a strong emphasis on looking at not only the environment, also including the animals, plants, stones, and all the materials we have to deal with in the world, which should be included in our theoretical deal with the world. So this is not enough if we look at it from a feminist perspective, feminist SDS perspective, but it's a good start at least. Humans are in the center, but not enough. I think we all know these ideas, identifying users' needs, and we try to intervene, bringing in some gender studies perspectives, but we did not get far. We did a few successes, but first I want to tell you about the structural problems. So we had hidden mechanisms of inclusion and exclusion. So this is the participation of the DIN group we were working with. So there are 500 members, around 500 who are working in that roadmap, only a few in the social-technical part. But if we look at the spread, then we see that a lot of companies are represented, companies are overrepresented, I would say, and this is somehow resonating with what already was said by Alexandra Gese in her talk from the EU politics, that we have a strong emphasis on industrial perspectives in this initiative. So it is really hard from a research perspective to look at these and intervene in these groups because we have different ways how to do that, one is that the people from industry, they have a lot of time, and they are just working for the DIN groups, and people, for example, in research or in the public sector, in universities, they have other duties, they have other things to do. For example, when it comes to meeting, we also, me as a researcher or a teacher, we have also teaching duties that cannot be delayed or stuff like that. So there is that problem of resources, of work, and that others have to do work on top of their normal working load. It's unpaid work for us, whereas people and companies can do that within their working time. This is related also to the time aspect. So the working group, Social Technical Systems, was meeting for 11 months, so that's quite a long time. And we have to find the time, even as a group, to be there, present there at every meeting. So that was not easy to do. And another part of the structural problems is the language, that people who are used, who are in that standardization processes, so-called socialized people who are working in the companies doing that, they can just express themselves in that language, whereas we as researchers have to learn that first. So this is some of the hidden, or maybe not that hidden, exclusion mechanisms that we experienced on the structural level, but there are also more on the more on other levels. We called it here the ontological plane, and here we come to the human-centered approach. I already said a few words about the critiques on that human centrism that is often excluding not only nature, ecology, and so on, but it is also, as we have here discussed at that conference, often a very Eurocentristic view what humans mean in that papers or in the discussions of that working group. So this is another problem we had to address, to bring in some other ideas into the working group. And I will now tell you a bit about the successes we could at least achieve. With a lot of work, a lot of people from that working group, we had reached at least a reflection of the biases, gender biases and other biases, and their effects within the papers that were produced during these 11 months. And also, which is, I don't know whether this is all over the world the problem, but in Germany it is highly contested language. In German, we have gender-sensitive language that had to be fought for, but it is implemented in these texts. So that was also one of the successes, a small success. And we were able to include some references. So the papers reference have a long literature list. So some critical feminist perspectives are included there, and coming more to what we actually stand for. Participatory design was somehow at least a bit integrated in the ideas that are now in the German roadmap, DIN roadmap for AI, and at least at the initiation phase, so in the first phase of design of AI. So this is something we stand for to somehow change. If there's a possibility to change something in the technologies, it's always good to do that from the beginning. So these are the successes. I can now tell you why we are why there's a lot still to do, and this is not enough, and we need much more people who are going with us, and we need allies, maybe not only in Germany but also in other similar institutions in Europe that are now trying to implement that EU AI Act on the national level. So I want to talk a bit about what we our visions, what we would like to address more, or have to be addressed more in these papers, and particularly in the laws that will be nationally implemented soon. Start with the question of how to build livable and desirable futures. I think we had that idea of future narratives in that conference discussed quite a lot, and these are here some resources I will partly rely on that we are working with. And here you can already see that feminism or gender studies also rely on indigenous and decolonial knowledges. So I will go a bit further into that. What does that mean? So it means centering marginalized perspectives. I think we have heard that already quite a lot, but I want to emphasize that.
You know, you have 2 minutes left.
Okay, I will just rush through that. So we have marginalized perspectives with which are need to be looked at from an intersectional perspective, where we look at the crossroads, and if we go along that line, we need to examine and challenge power. Here can we rely on data feminism and ask questions like we see here. What does it? Why does the tool exist? What it is created for? Who profits from it? And who is harmed? And here is also some resonance with decolonial AI ideas. particularly important is the idea of knowledge production that is often not enough addressed in critical approaches to our minds to AI. And here we also have that, somehow resonance between feminist and Black feminist, post-colonial, decolonial, indigenous epistemologies that all break with the idea of universal rationality. We've heard that in the first keynote 2 days ago by Cesar, and particularly we can hear from a feminist side relate on situated knowledges by Donna Haraway, who emphasis that we have to position ourselves and making relations, and knowledge is always partial. This is one of her message in her early work, and we can also go further to her recent work. So how to intervene or reinvent AI as a socially, globally, and ecological just technology or social technology. I think here we can rely on on the one hand, Black feminist thought, but also on new feminist, new materialist approaches, and here also ecological aspects come in, because we include matter, and matter means that they have that ecological basis to address. We have also discussed here already that means on the knowledge level, acknowledging the expertise that comes from lived experience, emotions, embodiment, binaries need to be rethought, and also the hierarchies, and we can rather go to a plurality of knowledge and go into that direction. That is also a mixture of different manifestos, and this is the last slide.
Okay.
We think we need to build alliances from these different lines of thought, of critical scholarships, and it's time to intervene now, particularly if we look at the governing aspects like the EU AI Act. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Corinna. Thank you, Corinna, and also Jannis and Tanya, if she's perhaps in the meeting. And thanks especially, of course, for Corinna for presenting your feminist intervention and giving us this kind of inside look into how such a standardization is even made, this inside look into governance. So for our online audience, if you want to ask questions, you can use the Q&A function. Otherwise, do we have questions from within the room? Yes, Denise, can you bring the mic to Tom?
Thank you. Hi, thanks so much for this presentation. I think it resonates with me and with some of my team members here, because we will be presenting on more than human approaches to AI later today. So my question is about, something you mentioned early on, the question of communicating these ideas. And I was wondering if you could say a bit more about your methods for communicating ideas such as situated knowledges to audiences, to people that haven't encountered them before, that might find them problematic or difficult to understand. So do you rely on any tools for this? Is it something, if you could just say a bit more about the methods of communicating these ideas to technologists in particular. Thank you.
I know this problem for a long time, teaching as a feminist science and technology scholar in engineering departments, and I have developed a lot of skills, or I hope they are these are skills to do that in the university context that we can talk about. I think that's didactics, or how you can work with a lot of examples and then go on to theory. So I think there are a lot of knowledges around to do that. The problem here is to work with industry people. So in the roadmap, particularly people from industry were represented, and they have a completely different mindset, and they had their agenda to somehow realize that roadmap, and most or a lot of the communication was done by written texts, and many of our group were writing in these common shared text production processes, which is a completely different way of doing that. And maybe this is part of the problem, that it was not easy to we just explain what situated knowledge is to the whole group. There was no space, no time for doing that. It was not possible to hold a theoretical lecture or something. So maybe that's why they canceled quite a lot of the interventions what was written in. But maybe Jannis can tell a bit more about that. I don't know.
Yeah, actually I can add, because there was a glossary, or there is a glossary in the roadmap, and I was sort of smuggling into it a definition for agency by Rosi Braidotti and Karen Barat, and they actually accepted that, and it's now in the roadmap, which is which is great, I think, because maybe it resonates with also their view. So basically, I said agency is enacting subjectivities who can also be more than human. So, but it's in at the moment it's only in German. I think they will translate it in English. But as Corinna said, we were planning to have a presentation even, and they also offered to feel free to sort of say if you want to hold a short presentation, and then we said okay, we can do that, and then they never circled back to that. So it's actually not a sort of true offer. So I thought that many things were like they were sort of pretending to be participatory, but then the result was it was not so participatory at all, because so this is a big problem. And my sort of strategy was just to keep on doing this and don't be frustrated, or don't get too much frustrated, and just be sort of annoying, for just write in our perspectives over and over again, and start discussions with them. And sometimes they would say, okay, that's a good point, and sometimes they would just erase our text. Yeah, but I think these interventions are so important, so that we should keep on doing this, even though there are so many obstacles. So
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jannis. And I think those are wonderful last words. Don't get frustrated. Continue to be annoying and annoy these people. Yes. Okay. So we're out of time, unfortunately, for you. So we don't have time for any more questions. But I'm sure you're not here at the conference in person. But I'm sure people can contact you by email if there's any further questions.